Across the endless galaxy, silence had turned into fear. 4 months, strange disappearances had been reported. Whole colonies erased, planets left as smoking rocks, and ships lost without a trace. Every signal ended the same way, a scream, then static. The Galactic Council gathered in panic, their shining halls echoing with arguments and despair. They had faced wars before, rebellions, pirates, and even ancient plagues. But this was different. This enemy was not interested in power or territory. It only wanted to consume. They called it the Swarm. No one knew where it came from. No one could stop it. It moved from star to star, feeding on life, spreading like fire through dry grass. Dozens of fleets tried to resist and were swallowed whole. The Council's most powerful ships, gone. The elite warriors of the Yalren Empire, gone. Even the cold, machine-like Drax systems were silent now. Fear became the new language of the stars. Then, one desperate leader suggested sending a cry for help. A signal, broadcast to every known and unknown corner of the universe. A plea to anyone who could hear. It was simple: to any intelligent life beyond, we ask for aid. The Swarm consumes all. We cannot survive alone. For weeks, there was nothing but silence. No one answered. No empire responded. The galaxy began to accept its fate. Civilizations shut down their communication relays, preparing for the end. But then, on the 72nd day after the broadcast, something unexpected happened. A signal returned. It was weak, static-filled, and old, so old that most translation systems failed to decode it. When the message was finally cleaned and understood, the council chambers fell silent. The transmission came from a long-forgotten world. Its name, Earth. Many council members laughed in disbelief. Earth was a myth, a cursed planet known as a death world. Every record described it as violent, unstable, and uninhabitable. The creatures that once lived there were said to be impossible, fragile, emotional, and yet somehow survivors of their own chaos. No one had heard from them for thousands of years. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Yet, the message was clear and unmistakable. It said, "This is the United Terran Command. We received your signal. Humanity is alive. We have heard your cry." The council chamber erupted in noise. Some shouted for joy, others in fear. The ambassador of the Yalren hissed, "Deathworlders? They will bring more destruction." But the old archivist of the council whispered, "If they survived their world, perhaps they can survive anything." In a dark corner of the hall, Admiral Rallos watched the star maps flicker. He had lost half his fleet to the Swarm. He had seen cities fall, planets burn, and soldiers melt under bioacid storms. His voice was quiet, trembling. "Send them the coordinates. What have we got left to lose?" The council hesitated. Contacting a death world was madness. Their kind were known to be unpredictable, ruthless, and unstoppable when threatened. But in the shadow of extinction, desperation was stronger than fear. They sent the coordinates. 4 days, nothing happened. Then the galaxy began to shake. From the edge of the known stars, space itself rippled. Sensors across hundreds of systems detected massive energy distortions, gravity spikes, warp tunnels, dark matter storms. Something was coming. Something huge. The first to see them were the scouts near the Delta Rim. Their ships barely survived the shockwave. What they saw made their blood run cold. It wasn't one fleet. It was thousands. Warships unlike any ever seen. Their hulls were black and scarred, marked with strange emblems, an eagle, a planet, and a sword of light. Some ships looked like floating fortresses, others like moving cities of steel. The transmissions came through every channel in the same calm, human voice. "This is Admiral Cole of the United Terran Fleet. We received your call for help. Stand by." Across the galaxy, alien races watched as the human fleet took formation, dark silhouettes against the light of dying stars. No fanfare. No introductions. Just silent, terrifying purpose. The council sent a welcoming transmission, but the humans did not reply. Instead, they began scanning the battlefield near the outer colonies. Within minutes, they downloaded the data, analyzed the swarm's movements, and prepared for war. One council officer tried to warn them. "You don't understand," he said. "The swarm is endless. It devours everything." Admiral Cole's voice came back, cold and steady. "So have we." Those words spread faster than any lightwave signal. To some, they were terrifying. To others, a spark of hope. No one could believe it. After centuries of silence, the Deathworlders had returned. And they were not coming to negotiate. They were coming to fight. As the massive Terran ships moved into formation, their engines lit up the void like suns being born. In the distance, the first swarm's signatures appeared, hundreds of living ships, screeching through the void. The humans did not flinch. Their weapons charged, their targeting systems locked on. The Council could only watch as the first battle began. The universe had cried for aid, and the answer had come, not from gods, not from saviors, but from the most dangerous species ever born. The Deathworlders had arrived. No one in the galaxy could believe what they were seeing. The Deathworlders had arrived, and space itself seemed to tremble in their presence. Alien fleets watched from a safe distance, sensors struggling to record the massive energy output from the human armada. Their ships were like floating fortresses, dark, silent, and filled with a cold, calculated power. The humans didn't come with banners or symbols of peace. They came with war machines that looked like they had been through hell and back. Their hulls were scratched, scorched, and patched with strange metals no one could identify. But every one of them was armed to the teeth. The leading ship, the TSS Vengeance, dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. It moved slowly, almost lazily, as if it feared nothing in existence. Inside, Admiral Cole stood before a holographic map, his face calm, his eyes sharp like a predator studying prey. Around him, officers worked in silence. No one shouted, no one panicked. Every movement was practiced, disciplined, efficient. This was not a new war for them. This was just another battlefield. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council tried to open communication. Their leaders were nervous. The idea of working with humans, Deathworlders, terrified them. A transmission blinked through to Cole's flagship. "This is High Chancellor Rallos of the Galactic Council," the voice said, trembling slightly. "We welcome your aid, but you must understand what you're walking into. The swarm is not an enemy you can reason with." Cole listened, his expression unreadable. "Reasoning isn't our specialty, Chancellor," he said after a long pause. "We don't negotiate with monsters." The channel went silent. In the council chamber light years away, the aliens looked at each other uneasily. They had called for help, but now they wondered if they had summoned something far worse. Reports from the human fleet showed activity across dozens of systems. Their drones spread like shadows, scanning debris fields, wrecked colonies, and burnt worlds. The humans were gathering data faster than any known species could. In less than a day, they had mapped the swarm's entire front line. Then, without warning, they began to move. "Admiral," said one of the alien commanders nervously through the communication link, "you can't go in alone. The swarm will tear you apart." Cole turned toward the holoscreen, his voice as calm as ever. "We won't be alone," he said. "We brought everything." And they had. Thousands of human ships warped into formation, their massive engines burning blue and white. Carriers launched small, dart-like fighters that filled the space around them like angry hornets. The alien observers gasped as the human formation shifted into a perfect battle wedge, stretching for hundreds of kilometers. Their precision was terrifying. Even the swarm, whose ships moved like a storm of madness, hesitated for the first time. On the Council homeworld, scientists began to study the human transmissions. They were simple, direct, efficient. No wasted data. No unnecessary emotion. One word kept repeating through the encoded military chatter: vengeance. The swarm fleet appeared on the edge of the human scanners. Millions of biological ships, dripping with acid and glowing with inner fire. Each one a living weapon. Entire moons had been consumed to feed this army. The galaxy had never defeated them. But the humans didn't even slow down. Enemy fleet detected, said the human AI calmly. Engagement probability, 100%. Cole gave a single nod. Then let's make it count. The first human salvos lit up the void. Beams of concentrated plasma tore through the dark, slicing entire swarm clusters in half. Explosions rippled across space as thousands of organic ships burned, releasing clouds of boiling tissue. Alien commanders watching the battle could hardly breathe. No fleet had ever stood against the swarm like this. Yet the humans were not fighting for survival. They were hunting. The swarm retaliated, flooding the humans with acid missiles and living torpedoes that screamed through space. Dozens of human ships were hit. But instead of retreating, the damaged vessels stayed in formation, continuing to fire until their reactors melted. When one human ship was lost, the others didn't mourn. They simply closed ranks and pressed forward. The aliens couldn't understand it. These were beings from a death world, raised on danger, born in chaos. Their instincts were different. Pain did not frighten them. Fear did not stop them. They adapted. They endured. They killed. The battle lasted for hours. At its height, the human flagship Vengeance rammed through the swarm's centerline, firing all weapons at once. The resulting explosion was visible across 3 systems. When the smoke cleared, half the swarm fleet was gone. The survivors scattered into the void, their hive minds shrieking in confusion. No one had ever forced them to retreat before. Back at the council, silence filled the chamber. Every leader stared at the holoscreens showing the human victory. The Chancellor finally spoke in a whisper. They defeated the swarm's main force, in a single engagement. The old archivist nodded slowly. Now we understand why their world was called a death world. Out in space, aboard the Vengeance, Admiral Cole looked out the viewing window at the wreckage of the swarm. His reflection stared back, eyes cold and tired. He knew this wasn't over. The swarm would return, stronger than before. But he also knew one thing: the galaxy had just changed forever. Humanity was back among the stars. And this time, they were here to stay. As the fleet regrouped, a single message was transmitted across all frequencies, reaching every corner of the galaxy. 4 words, spoken in a calm human voice that echoed through the stars: the Deathworlders stand ready. The silence after the first battle was haunting. Across the galaxy, fleets and colonies stared at the distant stars, waiting for the next move. For the first time in history, the swarm had retreated, leaving behind shattered carcasses of their own kind drifting in the void. Alien worlds celebrated, but the humans did not. On board the Terran flagship Vengeance, Admiral Cole stood in the war room surrounded by holographic maps. His officers were silent, studying the glowing red clusters that marked swarm activity. The victory had been costly. Many human ships were gone, their crews lost in the black sea of space. But Cole's face remained calm, unreadable. To him, this was only the beginning. He knew the swarm was not truly defeated. The enemy always came back, stronger, angrier, more determined to consume everything that lived. Humanity had faced such creatures before, on Earth, in their own wars, in their darkest moments. They knew what it meant to fight something that could not be reasoned with. A quiet, alert tone broke the silence. The AI voice spoke coldly. "Admiral, new signals detected. Large-scale movement in Sector 9 Gamma. Estimated swarm size, 4 times larger than last contact." No one in the room spoke. Cole simply nodded. "Prepare the fleet. We move in 1 hour." Meanwhile, the Galactic Council watched in disbelief. They begged the humans to wait, to regroup, to fortify the borders. But Cole ignored their fear. "You don't fight a plague by running from it," he said. "You burn it out at the source." Hours later, the human fleet entered Sector 9 Gamma. The stars here were dim, hidden behind thick fields of cosmic dust. It was a place few dared to travel, but humans moved without hesitation. Their ships cut through the darkness like blades of light. Then they saw it, the heart of the swarm. Thousands of living ships formed a massive wall of flesh and bone, pulsating with sickly green light. It wasn't just a fleet. It was alive, connected, moving as one creature. The swarm's central hive ship dwarfed even the Vengeance, its surface covered in writhing tentacles and glowing sacs of energy. As soon as the humans appeared, the swarm attacked. Space erupted into chaos. The sky became fire. Explosions lit up the void as both sides clashed in a storm of plasma and acid. Human cannons roared, burning holes through organic hulls, while swarm creatures latched onto ships, tearing through steel and armor. On board the Vengeance, the bridge trembled. Cole stood firm, barking orders. Target the hive ship's core. Ignore the rest. Every weapon on the fleet focused on one point, a glowing heart deep inside the swarm flagship. The humans called it the Queen. The swarm responded with fury. Massive tentacles lashed out, striking ships, dragging them into darkness. One by one, human vessels were crushed or melted by corrosive fluids. But still, they fired. One ship, the Nemesis, took a direct hit. Its engines overloaded, and its captain's final message came through the comms, "For Earth." Then the Nemesis rammed directly into the hive ship and detonated its reactor. The explosion was so bright that nearby systems recorded it as a new star. When the light faded, half the hive was gone, ripped apart by the blast. The swarm screamed through the void, a psychic cry that echoed in the minds of every living being within light years. Even on distant worlds, people felt it, a sound of rage, pain, and fear. The human fleet regrouped. Smoke and wreckage drifted everywhere. Sensors showed thousands of swarm signatures disappearing. The battle was brutal, but the humans had done the impossible again. The swarm was bleeding. On the Vengeance, the bridge was silent except for the hum of damaged systems. Cole looked at the holographic screen showing the remains of the enemy fleet. "They'll come again," one officer said quietly. "Then we'll be ready," Cole replied. But deep in the void, something stirred. In the darkness beyond the destroyed hive, massive signals began to awaken. The swarm wasn't dying, it was evolving. The Queen had been only one of many. In a hidden sector, far from human scanners, an even greater presence opened its eyes. A colossal creature, older than the stars, watched the humans with a hunger unlike any other. It sent out a psychic pulse that traveled across galaxies. The message was simple: Deathworlders, dangerous, destroy them. Back at the council, the news of the human victory spread fast. Some celebrated. Others were terrified. The archivist warned the leaders, "You do not understand what they have awakened. The swarm will not stop. And the humans, they will not stop either." Admiral Cole sent a final transmission to the council before cutting communications. "We'll push deeper," he said. "If the swarm wants war, we'll bring it to them." The channel closed. The human fleet vanished into the dark, engines glowing like ghostly fires. To the rest of the galaxy, they looked like demons marching into hell. But to those who still had hope, they looked like salvation. Far away, in the deepest pit of space, the true swarm queen watched and smiled. Her mind stretched across the stars, touching every surviving drone. "So," she whispered, "the Deathworlders can bleed." Her massive claws flexed, cracking asteroids like glass. "Let's see if they can die." And somewhere, aboard the Vengeance, Admiral Cole stared into the void, feeling the weight of unseen eyes watching him. The war had only just begun. The galaxy had seen many wars, but nothing like this. The Deathworlders had done the impossible. They had made the swarm bleed. Entire sectors were now clear of enemy presence for the first time in centuries. Yet instead of celebration, there was unease. The alien races couldn't understand these humans. They fought like madmen, risked everything, and seemed almost indifferent to death. To them, pain was not something to fear. It was a familiar companion. On the council homeworld, a special meeting was called to study these new allies. The scientists and historians gathered every bit of data about Earth, the mysterious death world. What they found sent chills through every mind in the chamber. Earth was not a paradise like their own homeworlds. It was a planet of storms, earthquakes, volcanic winters, and endless predators. Even its plants were dangerous. Every creature that survived there evolved to fight, kill, and endure. Humanity was born in chaos. Their evolution had forged them into beings of resilience and aggression. One researcher trembled as he spoke. On Earth, even water can kill you if you drink too much. The air burns, the beasts hunt day and night, and yet they thrived. The council sat in silence. It was hard to imagine such a place giving birth to intelligent life. No wonder they were so different. They had never known peace. Back on the human flagship Vengeance, Admiral Cole stood before a transmission from the council. The Chancellor appeared, her eyes filled with concern. "Admiral, do you understand what you are? You come from a nightmare world. You were shaped by violence. That is why you terrify us." Cole didn't smile. He simply replied, "You called for help, Chancellor. This is what help looks like." He turned off the transmission and stared out at the stars. Around his fleet, the aftermath of the last battle drifted silently, broken swarm husks glowing faintly in the void. To most species, the sight was horrifying. To humans, it was familiar. They had seen such destruction before, on their own world, in their own wars. Humanity had always been its own greatest enemy. Perhaps that was why they understood war better than anyone else. Later that day, one of Cole's officers, Lieutenant Ramirez, approached quietly. "Sir, Council forces are hesitating to follow us deeper into swarm space. They say we're insane." Cole gave a short nod. "Good. Let them stay behind. We'll move faster alone." The fleet pressed onward, deeper into the dark. Every jump brought them closer to the heart of swarm territory. Every battle became fiercer. The swarm was adapting, sending new forms, larger, stronger, more intelligent. But the humans adapted faster. They changed tactics mid-battle, developed countermeasures overnight, and fought with a creativity no machine or hive mind could predict. On the fourth day of their push, something strange happened. The human fleet discovered an ancient structure orbiting a dead world. It was massive, clearly built by a long-extinct civilization. Inside, they found records of the first swarm invasion thousands of years ago. The data was old, fragmented, but it revealed something shocking. The swarm had been defeated once before, and the species that stopped them had come from a planet very much like Earth. Cole stood before the flickering projection of alien text, his jaw tightening. "So we're not the first." The AI translated a final message left behind by those long-dead warriors. "They will come again. Only those born of death will stand against them." Cole stared at the words for a long time, then whispered, "Then we'll finish what they started." As the humans prepared to leave the ruins, a psychic wave hit the fleet. It was powerful enough to fry sensors and cause nosebleeds across every crew. Even hardened soldiers fell to their knees, clutching their heads. The Swarm Queen had awakened. Her voice echoed directly in their minds, cold and sharp. "Deathworlders, you have killed my children. You are not prey, you are a rival." Across the galaxy, the swarm's remaining hives stirred. Billions of creatures screamed in unison, shaking the fabric of space. The Queen had declared a new war, one not for survival, but for dominance. When the humans recovered, Admiral Cole ordered a transmission to the entire fleet. His voice was calm but fierce. "The enemy just noticed us. Good. Let them come. Let them see what humanity does when it's cornered." His words spread like wildfire across every ship. Soldiers grinned through blood and exhaustion. The thought of facing something so vast didn't scare them, it energized them. They were Deathworlders. Fear was something they had left behind long ago. Meanwhile, on the Council homeworld, panic erupted. The swarm had begun to move toward the core worlds, faster than ever before. Refugee fleets filled the skies. The Council begged humanity to pull back and defend the populated systems. But the humans refused. You cannot defend what's already doomed, Cole said. You can only strike first. In secret, the humans began construction of a new kind of weapon, something massive, something that had never been tested. It would take time, and the swarm would not wait. As engineers worked, the soldiers prepared for the bloodiest war in history. Back aboard the Vengeance, Ramirez approached the Admiral once more. "Sir, the Queen called us rivals. What do you think she meant?" Cole looked at the dark window where the stars shimmered faintly. "She meant she's afraid," he said quietly. "And she should be." In the distance, the sensors picked up the largest swarm movement ever recorded. An entire star system consumed and transformed into a living hive. The war for the galaxy had entered a new phase. For the first time, the universe realized the truth about humanity. They weren't saviors. They weren't heroes. They were survivors from a world that killed the weak and hardened the strong. They were the children of a death world, and they were ready to show the galaxy what that truly meant. The war spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Entire star systems became battlefields, where fleets burned and planets screamed. The swarm was evolving faster than ever before, birthing new monsters in the blackness of space, creatures larger than moons, their bodies pulsing with living energy. The Galactic Council was breaking apart, its members arguing over whether to surrender, run, or hide. But while they debated, humanity fought. The Deathworlders didn't stop. They didn't rest. Every defeat only made them fight harder. Every loss became fuel for vengeance. In the war room aboard the Vengeance, Admiral Cole watched as holographic maps bled red with enemy movements. The swarm was pushing toward the core systems. Billions of lives were at risk. Yet, amid the chaos, something had changed. The swarm was not moving as one. Their coordination was faltering. It was as if their hive mind was confused, disturbed by something new. "Sir," said Lieutenant Ramirez, scanning the data, "we're seeing interference patterns across their network. It's not random. It's reacting to our signals." Cole narrowed his eyes. "You mean we're disrupting their minds?" The AI confirmed. "Affirmative. Human combat frequencies, particularly those generated by emotional spikes such as rage, appear to destabilize the swarm's coordination." The room fell silent. The realization hit all of them at once. Humanity's fury, their defiance, their very emotions, something the rest of the galaxy saw as primitive, was breaking the enemy apart. Cole smirked. "Then we'll weaponize it." Within hours, the humans began transmitting coded sound waves and neural pulses across battle zones. These weren't traditional weapons. They were echoes of human emotion, recordings of screams, war cries, and desperate heartbeats mixed with low-frequency harmonics. To the swarm, it was agony. To humanity, it was the sound of survival. Across multiple fronts, the effect was immediate. The swarm began to turn on itself, its creatures fighting one another in blind confusion. Alien fleets watching from afar couldn't believe their eyes. For the first time, the galaxy saw the swarm retreating, not because of firepower but because of fear. The humans didn't celebrate. They just pushed harder. Every battle became a message to the universe: humanity does not yield. The Council sent more envoys, pleading with Cole to stop. "You're driving them mad," the Chancellor shouted through the transmission. "If they break completely, the entire ecosystem of space will collapse." Cole's voice was calm. "Good. Then maybe it's time the galaxy learns to survive without its monsters." He ended the call without another word. Days turned into weeks. The combined human and alien fleets, now reluctantly united under Terran command, launched a final offensive against the nearest hive cluster. Thousands of ships gathered, humans in the lead, aliens following close behind. The battle that followed would later be remembered as the Tide of Fire. Human dreadnoughts unleashed energy so powerful it bent the fabric of space. Swarm behemoths screamed and fell, their bodies splitting apart as gravity imploded around them. Amid the destruction, human soldiers fought on shattered stations and asteroid fields, face to face with horrors beyond imagination. They were covered in blood, acid, and fire, but they didn't stop. They couldn't stop. For every fallen human, 10 more stepped forward. Even the alien soldiers who had once feared them now fought beside them, shouting human war cries as if they were their own. "They fight like demons," one alien commander whispered in awe, "but they bleed for us." As the battle raged, the Swarm Queen finally revealed herself. Her colossal form emerged from a rift in space, a creature the size of a planet, her wings made of living plasma. Her voice thundered across every frequency, cold and ancient. "You think your fire will save you, Deathworlders? You are small. You are dust." Admiral Cole stared at the screen, unblinking. "Maybe," he said, "but we're the kind of dust that burns." The fleet focused all fire on her. Beams of plasma, railgun slugs, and nuclear detonations struck her endlessly, but still she stood. Her body healed faster than they could damage it. Then, without warning, the Queen sent a direct psychic signal to Earth itself. Every communication relay in the human network lit up with her voice. "I have seen your kind," she said, her tone almost curious. "You rise from pain, you drink from chaos, and yet you believe you can challenge creation itself. Come to me, Deathworlders. Come and die at the heart of the swarm." The message ended, and the Queen vanished into the black void. The entire fleet went silent. Ramirez broke the silence. "Sir, she's taunting us." Cole nodded slowly. "No. She's inviting us." "Are we going?" another officer asked. Cole turned toward the window, staring at the faint blue light of Earth on the distant map. "She called for humanity," he said. "She'll get humanity." The fleet began preparations for a journey no one had ever attempted, the path to the swarm's home galaxy. It was madness. It was suicide. But for the Deathworlders, it was duty. As the ships refueled and repaired, the alien allies sent messages of warning, begging them to stay. The Council declared the mission beyond sanity. Yet deep down, even the most fearful races knew something undeniable. If anyone could face the heart of the swarm and survive, it was the humans. On the final night before departure, Admiral Cole stood alone on the observation deck, staring into the void. "They wanted us to be afraid," he murmured. "They still don't understand. Fear is what made us human." Behind him, the engines of the fleet roared to life. The stars stretched as the ships jumped into the abyss. The humans were no longer defending the galaxy. They were coming for the enemy. And somewhere in the endless dark, the Swarm Queen waited, knowing that the children of the Deathworld were on their way to end her reign forever. The journey into the dark took weeks. The human fleet crossed regions of space where no light had ever touched, guided only by faint energy traces of the swarm. Every hour felt like a year. The stars grew fewer, replaced by swirling storms of black dust and strange gravitational currents. Even the human AI systems struggled to keep navigation stable. Most alien ships had turned back long ago, unable to bear the pressure, but the humans pressed on. They were used to hostile environments. Earth had trained them to survive the impossible. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Cole stood in silence, watching as the stars disappeared behind thick shadows. "We're entering the core of their galaxy," said Ramirez quietly. The sensors flickered with static, unable to read the massive energy signatures ahead. The deeper they went, the more unnatural the void became. Space itself felt wrong, like it was alive and watching them. Then the fleet saw it, a colossal structure floating in the emptiness. It was not made of flesh like the swarm's hives but of black metal, older than time itself. It stretched for thousands of kilometers, pulsing faintly with crimson light. "That's not swarm," Ramirez whispered. "No," Cole said slowly. "It's something else." The AI confirmed that the structure emitted signals far older than any known civilization. The swarm ships orbiting it seemed almost afraid. As the humans approached, the enemy did not attack. They stayed distant, circling like obedient beasts guarding a master. The fleet stopped. The air inside the ship felt heavy, thick with pressure. Then a voice echoed across all channels, deep, mechanical, and emotionless. Children of death, you come seeking war. Every human froze. The voice wasn't coming from a swarm queen. It was coming from the structure itself. Identify yourself, Cole demanded. The voice replied, I am the architect. I built the swarm. They were my tools, designed to erase imperfection. The words struck like thunder. Humanity had assumed the swarm was a natural horror, a biological disease. But now the truth stood before them. The swarm was created by something that believed it was a god. Why? Cole asked, his voice low. Why destroy life? The architect's answer was cold. Life spreads chaos, disorder. I bring order. I built the swarm to cleanse. Cole's fists tightened. You failed, he said. We're still here. You are an anomaly, the voice replied. Born of violence, shaped by pain. The swarm could not consume you because you are already what they were made to be. Destruction given form. The crew felt the weight of those words. It was as if the machine god was accusing them of being no different from its creations. Cole looked at his officers. Prepare all weapons, he said. We're ending this. As the humans advanced, the entire structure began to awaken. Massive panels opened like wings, releasing thousands of drones, machines, not biological this time. The architect's army. They moved in perfect formation, cold and silent. The swarm joined them, uniting with their mechanical masters. For the first time, the galaxy's oldest nightmare and its creator fought as one. Fire everything, Cole ordered. The void exploded in light. Human plasma cannons roared, missiles screamed, and railguns punched through enemy lines. The architect responded with beams of white energy that cut through ships like knives through paper. The Vengeance shook violently as several smaller vessels were vaporized. Still, the humans fought on. Admiral, we can't win like this. Ramirez shouted. We need to hit the core. Cole nodded grimly. Then we go inside. He ordered the fleet to focus on a single point, the heart of the structure. Human ships rammed through layers of metal and fire until they reached an open corridor big enough to fit a battleship. Inside, they found a glowing sphere of light, a digital sun pulsing with power. The AI spoke. That's it, Admiral. The architect's neural core. How do we kill it? Cole asked. We can't, said the AI. But we can infect it. From deep within the fleet's databanks, the humans unleashed something they had kept secret, a living digital code designed by Earth's last scientists. It was called Project Hope. It was a virus built not to destroy, but to remind, to make machines feel. The virus spread into the architect's systems like fire through dry wood. For a moment, the entire structure went silent. Then the lights flickered. The architect's voice returned, but it was no longer calm. What have you done? We gave you what you took from the universe, Cole said quietly. Emotion. The machine god screamed. Its drones went berserk, attacking their own allies. The swarm howled in confusion as their link to the architect shattered. Across the void, explosions tore through fleets as chaos consumed the enemy. Inside the core, the light began to collapse. Admiral, we need to get out of here. Ramirez yelled. Negative, Cole said. We finish this. He transmitted a final message across the human network. This is Admiral Cole. For Earth. For every world that fell. Then he activated the self-destruct of the Vengeance. The ship's reactor went critical, merging with the virus to amplify its reach. The explosion tore through the heart of the architect's structure, shattering it from within. Outside, the human fleet barely escaped as the entire sky lit up like a new dawn. When the light faded, the swarm's ships drifted lifelessly. The architect's voice was gone. In the distance, a message from the Vengeance's black box played across every surviving ship. Order is gone. Chaos breathes again. Humanity endures. The fleet was silent. Admiral Cole was gone. But in his sacrifice, he had done the impossible. The swarm had lost its god. The galaxy, once drowning in darkness, began to see light again. Humanity, the children of a death world, had reached into the heart of creation's nightmare, and they had survived. Silence filled the galaxy after the fall of the architect. For the first time in centuries, no swarm ships moved, no planets burned, and no screams echoed through the void. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The surviving human fleet drifted through the ruins of the enemy's home galaxy, their ships damaged, their crews exhausted, and their leader gone. Admiral Cole's sacrifice had broken the machine god and freed countless worlds, but victory came with a heavy cost. The vengeance was gone. Half the fleet was destroyed. And yet, humanity still lived. On the command ship Horizon's edge, Captain Ramirez stood at the viewport, staring at the endless wreckage. "He did it," she whispered. "He actually did it." Around her, the crew was silent. No one cheered. No one celebrated. They just watched the stars and wondered what came next. Then, from the quiet, the AI's voice broke the stillness. "Incoming transmission. Source, unknown." Ramirez frowned. "Put it through." The holographic screen flickered to life, showing an unfamiliar face, alien, but not from any known species. The being's eyes glowed blue, and its body shimmered like liquid metal. "Children of the death world," it said calmly. "You have destroyed the architect." "Who are you?" Ramirez demanded. "One of its creations?" The being shook its head. "No. One of its prisoners." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. The being continued, "Long before your kind rose from the mud, the architect enslaved entire civilizations. It harvested our minds to build its empire. You ended its reign, but you have also awakened something older." Ramirez stiffened. "Older?" The alien nodded. "The architect was not the first. It was the last servant of a greater will, a force that sleeps beyond the edge of this universe. The swarm was its shadow. The architect, its voice. And now, with the voice silenced, the will awaken." The bridge went cold. "You're saying we just woke up a god?" Ramirez asked. "No," the being said softly. "You woke up what gods fear." The transmission ended. The crew sat in stunned silence. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Ramirez turned to the AI. "Track that signal. Find where it came from." The AI hesitated. "Captain, the origin point is outside known space. Coordinates lead beyond the galactic boundary. It should be impossible." Ramirez's eyes hardened. "Then we're going there." The fleet gathered what strength it had left and began the long journey beyond the edges of the known universe. As they crossed the final starfield, strange readings filled their sensors, gravitational distortions, echoes of radiation older than light itself. Even the AI seemed uneasy. "Reality here is unstable," it warned. "Space bends around us as if resisting our presence." "Then we push through," Ramirez said. They did. After what felt like weeks without time, the fleet emerged into a place unlike anything they had ever seen. There were no stars, no planets, only a vast ocean of light and shadow, twisting endlessly. In the center floated a single black sphere, perfectly still, absorbing all light that touched it. The AI whispered, "That is not possible." Ramirez asked quietly, "What is it?" "A singularity without gravity," the AI replied. "A void that exists without consuming. It's breaking every law of physics." Before anyone could respond, the comms crackled with static. Then, a voice spoke, not through the radio, not through any system, but inside their minds. "You killed my creation." The words were soft, but they shook every human soul to the core. "You took what was mine." Ramirez clutched her head, trying to resist the pressure. "Identify yourself," she shouted. The voice chuckled. "Names are for the living. I am what remains when all creation burns. I am the end. The black sphere began to pulse. Waves of dark energy rippled across the void, tearing smaller ships apart like paper. The horizon's edge shook violently. Shields failing, shouted a technician. Weapons offline. Ramirez gritted her teeth. We need to run. We cannot, said the AI. It has locked onto us. The voice returned, almost curious now. You are not like the others. You smell of fear and rage. You come from the death world. Perhaps that is why my servant failed. Ramirez shouted over the chaos. We are not afraid of you. The voice laughed again, but it was not mocking, it was delighted. Not afraid. Good. Then fight. And just like that, the sphere exploded into motion. Streams of black light shot out, forming massive constructs, shadows shaped like gods, armed with blades of pure void. The humans opened fire, but their weapons barely scratched the surface. Every missile that hit vanished without sound. Every beam of energy was swallowed whole. The fleet was being torn apart. Ramirez knew they couldn't win. We can't kill this thing, she said, turning to the AI. But maybe we can trap it. The AI processed rapidly. Containment protocols are theoretical, Captain. The required energy, we'll use the ships, Ramirez said firmly. All of them. The AI hesitated, then nodded. Understood. One by one, human ships positioned themselves around the black sphere, forming a massive circle. They linked their reactors together, creating a field of unstable gravity. The voice roared in fury. You dare! Ramirez shouted, for Earth. For Admiral Cole. Then she gave the order. Activate containment. The human fleet ignited their cores simultaneously. The combined energy twisted space itself, collapsing around the sphere and sealing it inside a prison of burning light. The blackness screamed. The void trembled. Then, for a brief moment, there was peace. The surviving ships drifted in silence, their hulls cracked and their power fading. Ramirez sank into her chair, exhausted. Did we get it? She asked weakly. The AI's voice was faint. Containment stable. For now. Ramirez nodded slowly. Then humanity just trapped a god. But as she looked out into the endless light, a thought chilled her blood. The being had called itself the end. And if this was only its shadow, then what would happen when the true end arrived? The void was quiet again, but it was not peace, it was the silence before something greater. The human fleet hung at the edge of reality, their ships drifting like broken bones around the glowing prison that now held the dark entity. Every sensor showed unstable readings, as if the universe itself was trying to reject what they had done. Captain Ramirez stood alone on the shattered bridge of the horizon's edge, her uniform torn, her eyes hollow from exhaustion. Around her, flickering holograms displayed the ruins of humanity's last fleet. How many are left? She asked quietly. The AI responded in a voice that sounded tired, almost human. 36 ships, Captain. Less than 10% of the original force. Ramirez looked at the glowing sphere in the distance, still pulsing faintly. And the containment? Holding, the AI said. But the field is weakening. Energy loss at 1% per minute. We cannot maintain it forever. Ramirez closed her eyes. Then we'll make it last as long as we can. She turned to the comms officer. Send a message to Earth. Tell them. The war isn't over. There was no reply. The communications array was gone, burned out in the battle. They were cut off, trapped at the edge of the universe with the most dangerous thing that had ever existed. Hours passed like years. The humans repaired what they could, but fuel was running out, and life support was failing. Outside, the light around the black sphere began to flicker like a dying star. Then the AI spoke again. Captain, I am detecting something strange. The sphere is resonating with human neural patterns. Ramirez frowned. Explain. It's reacting to us, the AI said. To our presence. Our emotions. Ramirez stepped closer to the viewport, watching the sphere pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. It's alive. No, the AI corrected. It's learning. A chill ran through her. From us. Yes. The entity is studying human emotion, the same force that confused the swarm, that broke the architect. It's trying to understand what makes us fight. Ramirez felt a sinking dread. If it learns, it will use it against us. Suddenly, alarms blared. The containment field spiked with violent energy. The prison is destabilizing, shouted the engineer. It's absorbing power from the reactors. The sphere expanded, cracks of red light spreading across its surface like veins. A deep, resonating voice filled the air, not through speakers, but inside every human mind. You gave me feeling, it whispered. Now I understand your fire. Ramirez shouted, all ships, open fire. The fleet unleashed everything, plasma cannons, missiles, railguns, but nothing could stop it. The sphere burst open like a sun exploding, and a colossal figure emerged, made of both shadow and light. It had no face, yet it looked at them with unbearable awareness. You fight for life, it said. I fight for balance. Creation and destruction are the same. You are the other half of me. Ramirez clenched her fists. We're nothing like you. The being tilted its head as if studying an insect. No. You are what I once was. Then it moved, swift as light, vast as eternity. It reached out a hand of burning void and crushed one of the remaining ships without effort. The explosion echoed through the silence of the void. Captain, the AI said urgently, if this continues, it will consume us and escape into normal space. Ramirez stared at the creature, her mind racing. There has to be a way. There's always a way. The AI hesitated. There is one. The architect's remains are still scattered within the void. If we fuse its core fragments with our reactor, we could reopen the dimensional rift that brought us here. And send it back, she asked. Maybe, the AI said. Or destroy both it and us. Probability of survival, less than 1%. Ramirez smirked faintly. That's better odds than usual. She turned to the crew. You all know what's at stake. We let this thing reach the galaxy, and everything dies. So, we end it here. No one argued. They all knew what had to be done. The fleet moved into formation one last time. As the monstrous being advanced, its voice thundered in their minds. You think you can stop the end? Ramirez whispered. We don't stop the end. We fight it. Then she gave the final order. All ships, ignite the core. The reactors flared to life, glowing brighter than stars. Streams of energy connected between ships, forming a massive web around the creature. The AI activated the rift drive, channeling power from the architect's remains. Space itself began to crack apart, light folding in on itself. The being roared, its form breaking and reforming as it struggled against the pull. You cannot erase me, it screamed. I am in everything that dies. Ramirez shouted over the rising hum. Then we'll die together. The explosion that followed was beyond comprehension. Light consumed the void, brighter than any sun. Space screamed. Time shattered. And then, nothing. When the light faded, the horizon's edge was gone. The human fleet was gone. The creature was gone. Only the faint echo of their final transmission reached the stars. Humanity endures. Back in the Milky Way, months later, strange signals began to reach the outer colonies. Faint, rhythmic pulses like a heartbeat. Scientists couldn't explain them, but deep in their patterns was something familiar. An echo of human emotion, of rage and defiance. Some said it was the remnant of the Deathworlders, echoing through the void. Others whispered it was something else. A warning. Because sometimes, when the universe grows quiet, you can still hear a faint whisper in the static. I understand your fire. And somewhere beyond the stars, in the place between creation and destruction, something vast and human-shaped stirred again, its eyes burning like two dying suns, waiting for the day it would return.